What is up, guys? I'm going to be going over with you some of the cards that I already owned for this spellbook deck. And first off, we got double Effect Veiler. I pulled both of these Effect Veilers from the Premium Gold series. If you guys want to see that video, there's a link in the description. When an opponent's monster's effect goes off during main phase 1, you can send this from your hand to the graveyard to negate that effect. Effect Veiler is a staple in so many decks because she's a light, she is a tuner, and of course her amazing effect of negating effects. But Effect Veiler is even better in Prophecy, and why is that? Because she is a spellcaster. I would main deck one of these if I was you. Because not only do you sometimes like open with 2 masters and no spellcasters, because normally you only run 9, 3 magician, 3 temperance, 2 priestess, 1 world, and then 1 effect veiler makes 10. And a really good thing about effect veiler is that almost always when your tower gets sent to the graveyard, you'll be able to get an effect veiler set up in defense mode. For worst case scenario, negating 1 attack. Best case scenario, you can get a synchro play off. And it's also really useful for getting, a lot of people forget about Tower's effect. You have to have a spellcaster on your field or in the graveyard. This is good maybe if game 2 you open up Macrocosmos. Sorry, you wouldn't run Macro, you would run Fissure. You open Fissure and Effect Veiler. You can just Effect Veiler the first thing that they throw up. And then once you activate Fissure, you'll still have a spellcaster in your graveyard for Tower's effect. Effect Veiler is just an amazing card, and will always hold a special place in my heart. Next up, we have the Bottomless Snatch Hole. This card has been around since the very beginning of the game, and I remember when people used to argue, including myself, is Bottomless better or is just Trap Hole better? And I think the clear answer is that Bottomless is better, because going to the Banish Zone is so much better than being sent to the graveyard, and it's only 500 attack more, and you can use it on a special summon. Basically, the point of having Bottomless in this deck is that it's an extra Spellbook of Fate. Like if you have if you're fading them twice in a row, and then they realize that on the next turn you finally weren't able to get 3 spellbooks in your graveyard, so you can't fate them, they go for this big play and oop, there's Bottomless out of nowhere. And it's just like having 1 extra layer of security for on top of your spellcasters. And if you have Fate set and Bottomless set, use the Fate first, because you can keep bringing the Fate back every turn anyway. And then if they have a second big push that they can make somehow, then Bottomless that one. Bottomless is always just the bonus Jonas. And Solemn will be your third one, but I actually don't have a Solemn Warning yet. And some people don't like Solemn because of the 2,000 life point cost, so run Compulse if you don't like Solemn. But Bottomless is a must. Then, of course, we have Torrential Tribute. It went to 3 in OCG because we are going to be needing this trap card as players in the upcoming formats, because people are going to be pendulum summoning. A lot of decks are based on the concept of just spamming the board with monsters as it is now, so Torrential is always a good card to have. A really good combo is set Stoic, set Torrential, so they think that you don't have Torrential, and then when Stoic goes to the graveyard off Torrential, you get to search out Temperance anyway, so it's just a really good card. Plus, it's really good for blowing up the Spellbook Magician because he's not really worth much after the search, besides making a Downward Magician and maybe recycling him with to Tsukiyomi. But if you get one in the graveyard, then you can make Herald of Pure Light and get World out of your hand. So having one Magician in the graveyard is never a problem. Next on the list, some people are going to say that these are too slow, but I run double Mirror Force, and I think that it is one of the best cards in the deck. There is no other card that is such a complete blowout card like Mirror Force, except for maybe this card, Raigeki. Basically, Mirror Force is a Raigeki that happens when your opponent attacks. I know that Raigeki hits defense position monsters too, but normally all their monsters will be in attack mode. And this card works so well in spellbooks because of Spellbook Magician and Spellbook of Fate. When you're fating them all the time, they cannot get out their bigger monsters, and the best thing that they're going to have is one of their smaller monsters, and they're going to be mad at you for using Fate, and they're going to say, alright, you got rid of my big monster, but I'm going to punish you for having only a 500 attacker on the board and hit you with a lot of damage, and that's how I'm going to win this duel, is with the damage. And then you hit him with the Mirror Force. Not only is their best monster banished, those tinier monsters are destroyed, and they probably have some back row, and that's it. And spellbooks always win in the grind game because of the tower. So Mirror Force, just such a good complete blowout card. I'll admit it sucks against Madolches, but what are you going to do? Next up, of course, we have one Phoenix Wing Wind Blast. The question of which came first, Raigeki Break or Phoenix Wing Wind Blast, is just like what came first, the chicken or the egg. But I think that Wing Blast will always be better than Raigeki Break because there are always going to be more things that you can send to the top of their deck that are there are always going to be more things that they don't want to top deck than they do want to top deck. Like plus this is just like a compulse if it hits an XYZ monster or Synchro monster. So it can get around things like Beals and can stop their draw. This card works really well with Stoic because you still get his effect. You get a search, you get they get -2 basically because they skip their next draw phase and they lose a card. And this is also really good for getting World out of your hand, and then you can Spellbook of Life it and get World's effect. So this has a lot of synergy with the deck. You can also ditch dead spellbooks, which can happen sometimes in the first turn. And then finally, I've never run this before, but I just pulled this in Legacy of the Valiant. Actually, I got this in Premium Gold, I think, Ghost of a Grudge. It has the same concept behind it as Mirror Force, that people try and win duels against you by attacking, and this is also really good with Spellbook of Power. So I don't know, I just wanted to show you guys this mostly. Next up, we got the standard Exceeds, Gachi for Magician. You almost never make this Zen mains, but you can make it off of like Veiler Justice and a Veiler Temperance. I don't know. I had never made Zen mains. Next up, a very interesting card, I think, for this deck. Heartland Draco. If you control a face-up spell card, this card cannot be targeted for a tax. And you can detach one XYZ material from this card. This card can attack your opponent directly this turn. So this card is good in decks that even won't have a face-up spellbook on the field because you can still do 4,000 direct damage. But in spellbooks, you are always going to have a face-up spell card in the form of spellbook, the Grand Tower, the Grand Spellbook Tower, and Spellbook Star Hall. And they like I keep saying, they always try and punish. The only way they can get an advantage over you in spellbooks is by attacking. And if this thing is on the field, they can't attack you. If this is the only card you have on the field. And in more traditional prophecy decks, you wouldn't be able to make this card, but you can in this deck because of cards like Charioteer and Strength of Prophecy. So this is just a really good card in spellbooks. Next up, we have Beals of the Diabolic Dragons. Absolutely no way to summon him in this deck unless you run Unknown Synchron, but I just want to show him off. This is what you use for if you want to make a level 6 synchro play. This can technically help you get more spellbooks in the graveyard. Where are those other cards? Oh yeah. I Tekken 1 Snatch Deal. I'm just kidding. I wish this was still a card. You're gonna want to run 1 MST until the rule change comes into effect, where there's the Field Spell Wars. MST is a good card to have one of in any situation because it can negate continuous traps and spells like Fiendish Chain and Fire Formation Tenki, and can stop other field spells from resolving. And just removing back row and face spacing. MST is, I would always main deck 1 and side 2 more. Yeah, put this one in the side, and then I only have 2 MST. And then next up we have 2 chains, except I only have 1 Fiendish Chain at the time. I'm gonna trade my friend for 1 next time I see him, but for now I only have the 1 chains. Fiendish Chain is just a solid card. People have been switching to Breakthrough Skill because of like conflicts, like if they XYZ with it, which 9 times out of 10 they will. The Fiendish Chain clogs up your board for the rest of the game. But I like the fact that it can stop attacks. Once again, it's all about that attack hate in this deck. And next up we got 2 Forbidden Lance. Just kidding. Don't run Lance. That's what Spellbook of Wisdom is for. And the thing that's better about Wisdom than Lance is that not only does Lance negate make you lose 800 attack, it negates the effects of spells. And you don't want that to happen because of stuff like Star Hall, Spellbook of Power. So just run the Wisdom. And then for more extra deck choices, Crimson Blader, because you can drop the Effect Veiler on the Priestess, make Crimson Blader stun them even harder than normal. Leo, you can make Effect Veiler World into Leo. Leo is a insane card. I have an entire video on him. Click on Leo right now if you want to watch that. Then I got Draco Sack. Blackhorn for the side deck. Solemn Warning for the main.